On today's agenda, we're going to do a quick overview of the Mission Mosquito campaign, taking a look at the active mosquito season phenology with Liz Burke. I'll do seeing your data, and then we'll wrap up with upcoming events. So the GLOBE Mission Mosquito campaign connects citizen scientists of all ages to monitor changes in the frequency, the range, and distribution of the potential disease vectors from mosquitoes. We want to conduct research to explore how these vary in response to changes in environmental conditions. And it's a fusion of the GLOBE program and the GLOBE Observer programs.
Anyway, to continue on with the introduction here, campaign participants can conduct your own research and contribute to science outcomes of this campaign. And those science outcomes include basic scientific research that refines our understanding of mosquito ecology and mosquito behavior. And we would also want to develop an extensive database that can be used by scientists. We want scientists to use our data, those scientists who are creating and using models to develop early warning systems of potential disease outbreaks. So again, that is an important part of what we're doing. And oh, thank you. Cassie still has control over switching the slides here. So the Mosquito Habitat Mapper is a tool that has been developed, and it is pretty simple to use. There are the 4 steps. You don't even have to do all 4 of these steps, but there are 4 important steps we'd like you to consider. We would like you, number 1, to identify potential mosquito breeding habitats. We've talked a lot about that in previous webinars, and we'll continue to emphasize that. That's an important component to identify where mosquitoes are breeding. That's where it all starts. We need to know what's going on with their breeding habits and their habitats. We would like you then to get into that habitat there a little bit and sample and count the mosquitoes, particularly the larvae that you see in those habitats. We would like you to photograph what you're looking at. We would like a photograph of the habitat that you're studying. We would like a photograph of the mosquitoes that you see, the larvae that you see. We would like you, if at all possible, and we walk you through this on the app, to identify the species. That becomes critical again because of the connection to diseases. Some of those mosquitoes are disease carrying, others are not. And it certainly gives us more data points when we're looking at how diseases are being spread. And of course, what we really like you to do too is to do your part to help eliminate mosquitoes in your vicinity. Can we eliminate all of them? Of course not. But what you are doing is making it a little safer and reducing the probability of diseases in your area by getting rid of that breeding site. Obviously, some cannot be a pond. What are you supposed to do? But other sites can be. If it is a container that you found, using the example of an old tire that someone has discarded, and it's just laying there, and through condensation or through rainfall, water has accumulated inside of that tire. That's a perfect breeding site for mosquitoes. And so after you've sampled it and you've taken a picture of it, then please take it and dump the water out of there. And then, of course, we would also encourage you to get rid of that tire then so that it can't be used by any other female mosquitoes as a breeding site in the future. So through this campaign, this mosquito campaign, we strive to do several things. We want to get a baseline from 2018, last year when we started this project, and it goes until 2021. So we have a 3-year window that we would like to get a baseline for the range and the distribution of vectors. Vectors, those mosquitoes carrying diseases. And that includes Aedes aegypti and Aedes albopictus, 2 different species of the same genus of mosquito. We would like to identify seasonality, and I'm going to be talking more about that in just a few minutes, but the range of the mosquito season for those vectors. So we want to get a handle on when are we seeing them in your location? When do you see the last one where you live? And then we'd also like the period of the greatest number of observations. and the greatest number of mosquitoes, so we can kind of get a density idea. We would like to quantify the change in mosquito frequency and distribution at a lot of different levels, beginning at your level, where you are. We want your local data. That's one of the things I'm sure that you're very interested in. And then we would like the regional, we would like the national, and we would like to take this to global, as you can see by looking in the chat. We have citizen scientists from all over the world with us on this. And so that's a really important part of what we're doing. So we want specific references to prevailing environmental parameters. And then we're going to be looking at precipitation, land cover, surface temperature, and soil moisture. My name is Liz Burke. I am a senior science education specialist at the Institute for Global Environmental Strategies. I am also a retired high school science teacher and did a lot of biology, so the whole thing about mosquitoes is certainly very interesting to me. So just to get started, here we are, we're sitting here, and it is the middle of April already. And so for some of you, that date probably doesn't make a whole lot of difference to you as far as your mosquito season, because you see mosquitoes probably every day of the year. And we're saying, looking over the list here, you're probably in the tropics, that area around the equator of our globe that stays pretty warm, and you see a lot of mosquitoes. For some of us on here, your season has probably already started. You probably don't have mosquitoes year-round, but you're starting to see them. I, myself, calling in from Alaska, we are just real eagerly awaiting. We're still awaiting our season because we have important scientific investigations to do. So we haven't seen, there have been a few reports. I personally have not seen any mosquitoes so far this year. So our mosquito seasons are different depending on where we are on the planet here. So I guess the question we need to start with is what makes the difference in that? Why do some of you see them all the time and some of us not till much later? And I know that you know the answer to that. Of course, the answer to that is the temperature. It all has to do with temperature. That's not the only thing, but temperature is the biggie. The air temperature and the water temperature, those are two really important things. I'm going to jump aside for 1 second here with a little bio background, make sure we're all together on this, because this is critical to understanding some things about mosquitoes. One of those is the fact that mosquitoes are cold-blooded. And because they are cold-blooded, they don't produce their own body heat. They have to get their heat to do all their metabolic processes. That heat has to come from the environment. So they depend on outside body temperatures. We depend on inside. They depend on outside body temperatures. So they are going to become very active when that temperature gets warmer. They really prefer a sustained temperature of about 50 degrees Fahrenheit, about 10 degrees Celsius. That's when they start to become very active. They increase activity and really thrive at temperatures of about 80 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 27 degrees Celsius. So in the winter, when it gets really cold outside, where in the heck do they go? What happens to mosquitoes? Well, they overwinter. Some of them will hibernate. And so they will go into maybe a hollow log or a burrow that's been built by another animal, and they will just overwinter inside of that. When that temperature then starts to increase, we're near 50 degrees Fahrenheit, 10 Celsius, and it's getting warmer, we're getting sustained temperatures of that, then their bodies will warm up, and they will then become active again. Some of those mosquitoes will go ahead and lay their eggs at the end of mosquito season. They'll lay their eggs in the water. That female may die, or that female may go into hibernation, but those eggs then will overwinter in that water site, and they will go into this suspended period where they're not active, waiting for water temperatures to warm up, which was a reflection of air temperature. When it gets warm enough, they too will then hatch and start into the whole life cycle. I'm going to take another little turn here. You know, we emphasize, and we already did in the introduction, the part of what we want you to do is once you find those breeding sites where these females have laid the eggs and the eggs are developing into the larvae and the pupa to become adults, we emphasize we would like you to find those sites and then eradicate the site, dump the water out of that empty tire. I would like to emphasize with you, now that we've talked about the temperature thing, that it's important to do that in off-season as well. It's important to do that in the wintertime. If you find a site that could be a potential breeding site, there could be eggs in there now in the wintertime. Go ahead and get rid of them. So you can also be doing that, and you get a head start on doing that for getting rid of some of the mosquitoes in your area during the season. So when it starts to warm up, mosquitoes become active, we're going to see some changes. And so if we look at a map of the United States, and this will be one that was done by a cohort of ours at IGES, Andrew Clark. He took data from 1981 until 2010 and created this map showing you the emergence of mosquitoes. And again, this is focused on the United States. Continental United States anyway. Alaska's not on here, but you can see what's happening. If you start in the southern part of the United States, they're going to start seeing mosquitoes in early February, and you can just follow the coloration, looking at that key to see what's going to happen. But you know what's happening with temperatures during those same periods of time. As the temperature warms up, heading in a northerly direction, mosquitoes are looking for that 50 degrees, consistent 50, getting more toward 80, and they are on it. They have really started to become very active. So southerly and moving north by late May for the most northern parts of the United States there. And in Alaska, it's going to be late May, early June even for us to start really seeing a lot of mosquitoes. The map goes to 2010. You can probably find your spot on there where you live, or maybe a site you visited in the States or know somebody there or whatever. You can find a site in the United States, and you can find out when that's going to be, when you're going to start seeing the mosquitoes. But you may look at that and say, well, wait a second. Where I'm located, it says we should start seeing mosquitoes in late April, but you know what? We've already seen mosquitoes. We're seeing actually a lot of mosquitoes. What's going on? Why the changes? This map needs to be updated. So that's our goal, to get more data so we've got this data. Let's see what's going on in 2019. Is this changing? That's what we want to know, because those changes bring a lot of very important pieces of other data along with them. If you look at the map key down at the bottom, it says Mosquito Emergence Phenology. Phenology may be a new word to you, and let's talk about that for just a second. In the next slide, I will just define that word for you. You will see the definition for phenology. Thank you, Cassie. Phenology is the timing of the events in the life cycle of an organism. And so in this case, of course, we want to know what is the timing of those events in the life cycle of a mosquito. And so we're talking about the steps of its life cycle. So going from egg, when it starts being laid in the water as an egg, and then it develops into a larva, and then into a pupa, and then into the adult. Those are the stages of the life cycle of a mosquito. Those occur at certain times. Those occur at certain temperature conditions. It can also vary by species. That is very true, but there's a range that mosquito eggs generally hatch within this time frame. Once it becomes a larva, most mosquito larvae will spend this much time in that stage before then becoming the pupa and then coming out as the adult. So this phenology study, though, is really going to focus on the beginning of the season. When do we see the adults emerge and they start buzzing around? That's what we want to start looking at. We would like to know, how long does that last? And then when will we see the end of mosquito season? When will those mosquitoes die off and gone for the season. Again, for some of you, that's a year-round thing, but that's also important to know. Where is that year-round? And is that year-round seasonality moving a little further away from the equator, further out of the tropics, north or south of the tropics? Is that happening? That could be critical information to know. So we would like you to determine the onset of the mosquito season in your area. We would like you to monitor that duration of that, maybe even looking at intensity as you start to see more and more mosquitoes, and also then to determine the end of your mosquito season. That's the part of the life cycle we're looking at: adult, and then when they emerge as adults, and when you see the last adult. But this data is really important to us. It's going to show several things to us as citizen scientists. It will show the geographic trend of seasonality, which I just kind of mentioned. But looking at that map that Andrew Clark put together for us, is that going to be changing? Are we going to see mosquitoes start to show up? And if you have looked at much of this kind of data, you will know we are seeing changes because of global warming. We are already seeing those changes. That the mosquitoes are showing up earlier. They're showing up at higher latitudes away from the equator. They're showing up at higher altitudes. Things are changing. We would really like the data on that. We need the data on that. We would like to understand the impacts of climate change on mosquito seasons. It is changing. We are seeing them show up places where they've not shown up before. Species showing up where they've not been before. We're seeing diseases show up where they have not shown up before. That's a concern. We need to have the data on those mosquito-borne diseases. So the Phenology Guide for Citizen Scientists is going to show you how to do that. I mentioned it before. It is a guide that will be available to you to walk you through these steps, but it will show you how to do this. So what you're going to do is you've got to get the app downloaded, which I'm sure you already have done that. And you've got to go through those steps. You've got to review the temperature protocols on the GLOBE website. You need to select your study site. All of these directions are in the guide. We've chosen not to show you the whole guide. It would take quite a while to get through it. But you know that. You're going to select your studies. You're going to build your trap. Rusty, Dr. Lowe, has demonstrated that on earlier ones on how to build that trap. Dorian has done it on the educational one if you've joined in and seen that. So build that trap and get that set, because that's how you're going to get started. Then we need you to start monitoring that site. And in the Phenology Guide, this is what we're asking you to do. It's pretty simple. We're asking for just like 8 pieces of information from you. We would like to know, you could choose the name of your study site. That's it could be a personal thing to guide you to that site. Maybe you're doing 2 or 3 different ones. We would like to know the city, the state, or the location where you are doing this. And we would also like to know it by latitude and longitude. That's critical to the study. If we're trying to figure out, are mosquitoes moving, we need to know latitude and longitude. And we need to know what type of breeding site you're monitoring. Is this a pond, a river, a marsh, a container? Is this your trap? That's an important piece of information as well. We need to know the date of your observation. We would like you out there several times a week. If you are a dedicated citizen scientist and you have the time to do that and you love this kind of stuff, jump on this. Get out there as often as you can. We need those dates. We need to know what date you're looking at. And if you go out there tomorrow and you're monitoring a couple sites and you don't see anything, well, that was a waste. Oh, no, it was not a waste. The number that you put in there under, did you see adults present? And you say no. And was there a larvae present? And you say, well, no pupa, no larvae. I couldn't, so therefore I did not. You put zeros or no in all of those. That is critical data. If we're trying to find out the start of the season, we need to know there was nothing on this side until we got to this date, and now you're seeing mosquitoes. So no or zero, critical data, critical data. We want the date of your observation. We need to know the time of your observation. It would be nice if you could do it consistently at around noon or 2 o'clock or whatever. It's, wait till it warms up a bit where you are, and get out there and get these observations. We need to know your current temperature. We would like it in degrees Celsius. That is the universal scientific temperature scale. And so if you can give it to us in degrees Celsius, so get a thermometer that gives Celsius readings. We would like you then to look, do you see adults in your trap? Do you see them buzzing around you? Do you see any larvae in that trap? Or larvae, lots of them. Do you see pupa in that trap? And can you identify those? If you can get the genus and species, that'd be great. If you cannot do that, and it does take some practice, so you'll get good at it after a bit, but to start off with, a little uncertain, simply right, you are uncertain. Any comments and observations you want to add might also prove critical as we unfold all of this data. That it had rained a lot, or it hasn't rained, or you got snowfall the night before, or you had a drastic temperature change, you had a storm front come through, or something like that would maybe prove to be pretty valuable as we go on. So we care about your data on several levels. Because you are a citizen scientist in a local area, that local area would like to know your data. It's coming up on summertime, spring and summer in northern latitudes for the United States. People are talking about this. They're going to be sitting out around their little grills in the summertime, and they're talking about mosquitoes. Have you seen them? Have you been bitten? Oh, one of my friends just was diagnosed with West Nile. It's a topic of conversation your community wants to know. Your community is interested in it because of the spraying and the other efforts that your community may do to get rid of mosquitoes. It's a community effort. You are part of that community. You're paying for that effort. You're helping in that effort by doing these things. You're paying for it because tax money goes toward the eradication efforts in your community. Your health community is going to want to know about this information because of the threat of those diseases. West Nile is more and more common in the United States. Some other areas in the world where a lot of you deal with so many other mosquito-borne diseases, dengue and malaria, which are not huge problems in the United States at this point. But they are for you, and so that's an important part of your locality and your health and what goes on in your community. So, are we seeing changes? Is season starting earlier? Give us some data. Help us get that data. And the role of climate in all of this. We would like to make some connections here, but we need the data to do that. So, if you could download the app and jump in and get started with us, we would appreciate that. We are very anxious to see what you come up with. We monitor this site all the time, and we'll be happy to work with you on this if you ever have questions. And let us know. Reach out to us. We want to work with you. We want to find out what you're finding out. So that should do it for the phenology, just the study of the seasonality of these mosquitoes. We'd like to know when they appear, what you're looking at, and when they are out of your area. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Liz. And this is the interactive part. So if there are any questions, we'd like you to please put them in the chat. If you don't want to type it in the chat, let me know that you want to talk. And in our Zoominar feature, I have to turn on your microphone for you. So let me know and we can do that. I do just want to point out that you can make all your observations in the app as well. This is a paper copy that you can print out and you can use if you're to make additional details of your observation. So thank you very much, Liz.
Oh, you bet. Thank you.
And don't forget to use the Mosquito Habitat Mapper tool in the Globe Observer app. All right, so I know that we've been finding mosquitoes, and I'd like to show you 3 different ways that you can get to take a look at the data. And how many of you, and it's going to be a show of hands, so if you could raise your hand and let me know if you've made an observation using the app already. I have Teresa, she's done one. Anybody else? Michael? This is the interactive part, so if you have done one, feel free to raise your hand and let us know. Well, what I'd like to do is to take you out to the GLOBE Viz site, take a look at how we visualize the data, how we can use the ADAT from the GLOBE site to bring the data into more detail, and then take a walk on the wild side and look at the data in Google Maps. So if you haven't already, oh, the icon to raise your hand should be by your name, I believe. The website to get to this is www.globe.gov. And I'll share my screen in just a second, or if you're looking at the webinar, the website is right up here at the very top. Here we go. I'm on the GLOBE website, and I've chosen GLOBE data from the main menu, which is right here. And I went to visualize data, and I get to this window. I'm going to enter the visualization system. And I'm interested in looking at mosquito data. So under here, I'm going to choose the protocol data that I'd like to visualize. Mosquitoes is under hydrosphere. I'm going to take a look at the data for mosquito habitat mapper. And I'd like to know about habitats. I'd like to know about if anybody's taken a photograph and what species of mosquito perhaps that had been identified. Those are the three things I'm interested in, so I click on Submit. I'm going to get rid of Temples of the Egyptian. And I'm going to see on my map what's been done for today. The today's date shows up right here. I'm going to minimize that for a second. But taking a look at the map, I see that there's been 95 or 97 different sites that have collected data for today so far. But I'd like to find out what's been going on for the month of April. So if I click on data counts, I've kept my same three parameters, photos, the genre, and habitats. I'm waiting for the data to come in. And as it has come in, I'm going to narrow down my date range. So I'm going to slide it down to get into the year 2019, or as close to it as I can. I'm going to wait right here, changing the date to 2019. Here's the first month of April, April 1st to the 17th. And now I have on my map 514 observations. And I can take a look at the scale, or my legend, I'm sorry. And in my legend, I can see a bigger square of more than 40 observations for the type of genre, and then habitats is more than 40. I don't see the number of photographs in this particular legend. And if I'd like to see what's going on, I can click on a particular dot, and the data, depending on it's in my connection, but it'll come up. And I can find out how many observations people who are associated with the GPM satellite mission have seen with our tool, the Habitat Mapper. These are the 4 areas. And it shows me a bar graph of the dates that they've taken observations. If I'd like to see if there's a photograph associated with it, I click on photos, and it shows me that on April 7th, this particular location photograph water source was taken. I can click on this to see the next photograph, but you can do the same thing for your sites too. Any questions or comments about using the GLOBE Viz system? As a citizen scientist, from the observer.globe.gov website, you can see your particular observations also. No questions about the GLOBE Viz. It's a really quick, easy, fast way to see where all the observations for the different protocols are on a particular date range or a particular measurement. And we're going to go back to the to get to the ADAT then. So this is the one that I'm finding to be particularly useful for different reasons. But I'm going to zip up here to ADAT. They have a very nice tutorial in a PDF or a PowerPoint that you can download specific information from it. I'm going to, again, select a protocol. I'll choose Mosquito Habitat Mapper, and I'm going to add it to the filter. And I'm going to apply it. And I'm going to see that from the beginning until today, when we started taking mosquito observations, there's been a lot. These are the different sites, not a group of observations. So we have a lot of different sites around the world that we've collected data from. I think I'd like to narrow my range down. Again, I'm interested in the ones that are from the beginning of April till now. You might be wondering how we did we're working on getting the Data Blitz data all looked at. So I'm going to take a look here. And I'm just picking the month. So I'm at April 1st to April 17th. I'm going to select that. So out of that whole group, I'll apply my filter again. And I've narrowed it down to a different set of data. And as you're looking at it, you have the school name, you have a site name, their latitude, longitude, and elevation. If I downloaded the summary data, this is all I would get. But I want more. So I'm going to click on Obtain Measurement Data. It tells me there's somewhere around 810 observations that I'll be taking a look at. I need to click one more time. And I'm waiting for my download to, my subset of data to be put together for me. And I'm going to download it. So it's important to remember that this is a big set of data. It's going to come stuffed, which is great. And you need to remember where you save your data. So I'm going to click OK. And I'm going to save my data in a folder that I called Mosquitoes. And it's given a name right here. I'm just going to call it ADAT data. And it's now saved on my desktop in a folder called adat.zip. I'm going to expand that data. Okay. Takes a long time to get to Alaska. Sorry. All right.
That must be it.
All right, so I have all the data that is being that you're collecting every time you go out, and you have location services on your app. You've collected the data. I have your lat long. It knows the elevation, the date that you made your measurement, and all the fields that you filled in, the check boxes that you had. So the first two rows are going to give me some information about the field names. And so just making them a little bit bigger so you can see them. This is what kind of data is being collected. So again, this is pretty cool stuff. And you could make some spreadsheet graphs if you wanted to from this. But I'd like to take it one step further. And I want to take this spreadsheet data that I've saved as a CSV file. And now I want to take it into Google Maps. And so you just do maps.google.gov and it comes up with this. If you happen to have a Google account, if you sign in, then the maps that you make, you'll be able to save. Any questions so far that I can answer? I know I'm possibly going through this pretty quick, but there's a real good chance I'll make a mistake and redo things over again in just a second. So hang tough. I'm going to make a map. And to get to the map making option, I click on the three bars on the top left-hand side, and I'm going to go to My Places. When I go to My Places, I'll choose Maps. And I'm going to create my own map. And I'd like to import that layer, that spreadsheet data that I just showed you. So I'm going to import that. And all I have to do is go back to the folder that I've saved that CSV file in. And I just drag it and drop it. So latitude and longitude are how it will position your observations on the map. Those are the two that are checked. I'm going to click continue. And I'd like to know how many observations each particular organization has made, for example. So I'm going to click org, name, and finish. It's going to bring that layer into Google Map. And there's my map with all my data points. I've got one that it doesn't know what to do with. I'm just going to dismiss that error message for right now. And I'm thinking, wow, that's pretty cool data. That's pretty cool. There's 1,628 observation points here. I'd like to see what some of those have in them. So if I click on, for example, this one, I can see that information from a citizen scientist using the Globe Observer app and a container, but I don't see that they took a picture because I don't see anything else in their data. So I'm going to close that window up, see if I can find somebody who took a picture. And if I were in a classroom, I'd have kids going, pick mine, but I'm going to click on this one. And again, I see my site name. This is somebody from IGES, and they have taken some photographs. So in that metadata is a link directly to the GLOBE system with a picture. And if I click that, I can see the location that they took a sample of water from. And if I want to see the next picture, I can do the same thing. So think about if you're in a museum or you're in your library and you've got patrons that are doing this, you can see all their pictures, their observations, they can see yours. I'm going to say, hang on, because it gets just a little bit cooler from here. Those typical Google place marks, those are kind of cool, but why don't we jazz it up just a little bit and click on uniform style. And I think I want to group them by organization name. I'm pretty sure it'll come in. There we go. So now I know what the locations are and how many observations each of those locations have made. And you're thinking, well, again, that is pretty cool. But those place marks are just, everybody can do those kind of place marks. Well, how about we click on the bucket over here? And I want to change it instead of a color. I think I saw a mosquito. And you can change it to a mosquito then. So you can have all your mosquito sightings on there, or you could make your own icon. Oh, I see a wow. Thanks for the affirmation, because I thought that was pretty cool too. Sorry. So again, I can click on that now, and I can see they took an awful lot of pictures. And I can again review those pictures, see where they're getting or where mosquitoes are breeding in that particular habitat. And I can take a look and learn what kind of mosquitoes are in that location by the pictures that the user took also. It does get a little bit cooler because you can change your base map, because that base map is interesting, but there are more. You can change your base map, which when you're zooming in gives you a little bit more detail about the particular geography around this location. And when Liz said that no value or no data is good data, we know how many people went out to make an observation but didn't have anything to report out, which is fine. I can share my map that I've made with people by just clicking on share. Be sure to give your map a name, and then you can put a description here, whatever you'd like. And with your Google account, you can share your map is automatically saved, and you can share it with other people, which would be a really nice thing for people who are in museums and libraries who are an active citizen science program, and you want to share how many observations have been done in or around your city. Because I know I talk pretty fast on this, I have drafted a sample activity on how to do, I did not do one on GLOBE Viz, but on ADAT, and on how to use it with Google Maps. Any questions so far? The activity, or my particular one on the data, will be sent out to you shortly after the recap webinar. And Liz's activity, the Phenology, is up on our Globe Observer Mission Mosquito website under resources. Now, with the PowerPoint that we have, we gave the directions, so you're welcome to download our PowerPoint after the webinar. But what I have is the steps to visualizing your data, how easy it is to use in the Visualization Studio, the type of map that you can get just as a review, following along with the ADAT maps, and what your map can look like. I know this is going to be the best part. Is everybody ready for this one? Okay, webinar challenge coming up. I want everybody who's here, I'm hoping to see to come back next time. We would like you to create a map made out of your sites and your observations. You can use GLOBE Viz, taking a screenshot of the map that you made and sending it to us in an email, and our email addresses are coming up. Or you could do it in Google Map, or both. You can email us the link or send a screenshot of the map that you've done. But we'd like everybody to give it a try and let us know, number one, if the directions work, and number two, that you're successful. If you're not, we'd like to hear from you too, so that we know how it went and what we can help you with. Upcoming webinars, we have an education webinar on May 8th on protection and prevention measures. May 29th will be our next citizen science webinar, Mosquitoes on the Landscape. And so we'll be talking about land cover and how to map with the land cover tool in the app. And just a reminder to please get involved. If you're not getting a newsletter, send us an email and let us know. We'll put you on the list. You'll find out lots of great information about what's going on. Dr. Lowe's online, and she would love to have your map in our science blog. So again, we want you to take advantage of our webinar challenge. Please visit our Globe Mission Mosquito webpage and share the link. We have a lot of great resources online. The archive of the webinars is up there. All of the newsletters are there with lots of great information. And again, check out our archive and our upcoming. We do 2 webinars a month, one with an education focus, and then this one with a citizen science focus. And share with your friends and family. Let everybody know about the app. It's free to download. And then all it takes is just your email address to register for an account. And once you've done that, you are good to go to collect all the observations in all 4 of the tools we have on clouds, mosquitoes, land cover, and trees. These are our email addresses, and it's rusty_low@strategies.org. Liz Burke for the Phenology or any other mosquito questions too, and my email address. And Dorian has put into the chat her email address also, but she would love to spotlight the work that you're doing in your informal settings, science museum, library, because we love to share the good work that everybody's doing. If there are any questions or comments, we'd love to take them and put them in the chat, and we'll share them with everyone. If not, Liz, anything, or Dorian or Rusty, anything that you'd like to pass along? We actually finished early, so I'm.
That is great. Max said that he or she would like to have us email the PowerPoints, and I just wanted to let them know that all the PowerPoints are recorded and they're archived, and you can get them on our website. So just go to webinars on the website, and you'll be able to find them. And it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to put the website up here in the chat as well. So I'll do that now.
And Mac, it does take me about 24 hours to get the video downloaded, and it goes up on our YouTube channel, but it's on our website, so you can review the webinar, but also goes the PowerPoint and also the chat messages too. With that, I thank you. I think Liz, Dorian, and Rusty are the same, but thank you very much for joining us today. We really appreciated your stopping by.
We do. Thank you very much.